Okay, I'm what you need. You're watching my channel, and we're going into the topic that you see there. Uh, going to look into why is Al Haymon doing Canelo Mungia instead of a cross promotional uh, fight instead of an in-house fight, Canelo versus Charlo. This is the whole question, right? And in the short that I gave you guys, we kind of go through that. But we're going to do a couple of things here. Let me share this first with the groups so people can watch the stream. All right, so everybody should be good right now. So there'll be people tuning in and watching the stream. Okay, there's a couple things that I got to say, but first, let me start off with the Most High God. Praise be to the Most High God. The Most High God comes first. All right, so I just want to start off with the Most High here. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to give you guys some information. All right, so the first thing is if you want to sponsor this channel, if you want to donate to this channel, etc., you can do so by simply clicking the link. It's in the chat section right now. You can do so via PayPal. If you want to come on as a guest to the show right now as we're doing the show, we can also do that. That shouldn't be too much of a problem. You just simply click this StreamYard link here. StreamYard is the one that's hosting. And you can come in and say your piece. Just remember, you mute your mic as you're coming in, and then I'll unmute you, and you'll be able to say what you got to say. All right? So let's get into it. So our discussion today is basically on why is it that Al Haymon decided to co-promote with the Zone? Isn't that supposed to take some of the money away? He's co-promoting with the Zone in order to, instead of doing an in-house fight, Canelo versus some in-house fighter. Okay. Now the choice, the opponent that Canelo was supposed to face, and the opponent that Canelo wanted to face actually was Jamal Charlo. Okay, Jamal Charlo. However, Jamal Charlo the question we have to ask ourselves is, did Jamal Charlo want to face Canelo Alvarez? That's the question we should be asking. I'm going to show you a series of pieces of information that seems to point to the contrary. So for those of you who have stuff online, check out Boxing Scene. It was a piece by Keith Eidick, Wednesday, November the 22nd. I have my phone here. So this is it. All right. Because you gotta keep receipts, okay? And so it says Charlo's handlers turned down very lucrative offer for Canelo fight. So in Oscar De La Hoya says this. He revealed that his promotional company attempted to make a Canelo Alvarez Jamal Charlo fight for last May, that would be 2019, for last May 4th. So May 4th of 2019, should have been Cinco de Mayo 2019. Canelo Alvarez, who was still working with Golden Boy at the time, tried to make a fight with Jamal Charlo. Here's what it said. According to De La Hoya, Charlo's handlers turned down a very lucrative offer to battle Alvarez in what would have been by far the biggest fight of the undefeated Charlo's career. That offer was made when Charlo was the WBC interim middleweight champion, and due to a shot at, and was due a shot at Alvarez WBC 160-pound championship. We had an amazing offer for Charlo, very lucrative offer for Charlo, and he turned it down. De La Hoya told Fight Hub TV during an interview posted Tuesday to its YouTube page. Well, Charlo didn't turn it down, but his agent or whoever was behind PBC, I don't know. When asked about how much money Golden Boy Promotions offered Charlo to face Alvarez, De La Hoya replied, "I'm not going to say the offer." The retired 6th division champion clarified that the offer was made to Charlo to face Canelo in May, not this year, last year. It just didn't happen. So that's the side part about the business of boxing, that it can't work with my hands tied behind my back. Look, I'm a fighter. I grew up boxing. I want these fights. I want to make these fights happen. You know, calling all promoters. Let's make them happen. Jesus, for Christ's sake. For the sake of the sport, for the sake of the fans. So this was said in 2020 by De La Hoya, January 22nd, 2020. Okay? And that's the first piece of evidence. Again, if you guys want to see it, it was on Boxing Scene. So you can go ahead and check out Boxing Scene right there, and you'll get it. Okay? I'm reading from receipts. So Jamal Charlo, you know, everybody said Canelo ducked Charlo when Charlo was interim champion. It so happened Golden Boy made an offer to Charlo for Charlo to face Canelo. Yeah. So Canelo did not necessarily duck Charlo for when Charlo was the interim champion. Isn't that interesting? I remember an interview after Canelo had gone up and fought Sergey Kovalev, or I think he didn't fight Sergey Kovalev yet, but he was about to. I remember they interviewing Jamal Charlo, and Jamal Charlo, you know, talking about his awe of Canelo, that he would jump up 2 weight classes to face a guy at 175 pounds. I remember a number of people saying, which 160-pounder is doing that, right? So, you know, we are being a bit unfair to Canelo and his team when we say that he ducked Jamal Charlo. He did not get, Golden Boy protected him from Jamal Charlo. And as you notice, Jamal Charlo, which we get to this point now. So let's get to it. So you can get this on a number of different places on Google. Okay. So you can Google it. But as you can see, the headline says Canelo Alvarez to face Jamal Charlo, not brother Jamal, in September fight. As you know, in September of 2023, Canelo Alvarez faced not the bigger Charlo, but the smaller Charlo, Mel, who always wanted to face Canelo. He was always calling for Canelo. He always wanted to have a fight with Canelo. Mal, on the other hand, never really wanted to have a fight with Canelo. If you notice, he wasn't the one pursuing Canelo like that. In fact, it's the smaller Mel who said about Mal that he was cowardly. Why didn't he take up the offer to fight Canelo? And he dogged Mal for a good period of time. So he got his chance to fight Canelo, as you know. He moved up 2 weight classes to face him. And the receipt is right here. So here's how it goes. In June 30th, 2023, Chris Mannix is doing this article here. In an abrupt turn of events, Saul Canelo Alvarez, the undisputed 160-pound champion, 68-pound champion, who had been preparing for a showdown with 160-pound title holder Jamal Charlo, will instead face Charlo's brother, Mel, the undisputed 154-pound champion, in a clash of 4-belt title holders in September. So Canelo wanted to face Mal. But once again, for a second time, Mal does not face Canelo. Right? This is the bigger Charlo. This is the one that they say should have faced Canelo and all of this. Right? Mel was never in the picture. Second time, he has not faced Canelo. They go on to say Mal, who has been dealing with significant personal issues, did not believe he would be in the right headspace to train properly for a Canelo fight. Sources familiar with the situation told Sports Illustrated. Mal, 32-0, has not fought since June of 2021, when he claimed a lopsided decision over Manuel Marcis Montiel. Mel, who has been recovering from a left hand injury, has been out of the ring since May 2022. This is the smaller Charlo. All right, let's go on. Because I have a series of articles here. Again, you can find this anywhere. This is this year. Canelo Alvarez nearly left PBC, but fighting Charlo was a disaster. March 17, 2024, which is very recently. Canelo Alvarez settled on facing Haymon Mungia, despite a dispute with PBC that almost saw the Mexican superstar go back to the zone. I don't know if that's really true, but whatever. The incident stemmed from Canelo wanting to follow through with his promise to fight Jamal Charlo. Jamal Charlo. This is the third time now. Which former promoter Oscar De La Hoya says was a disaster waiting to happen. Now, let me say this. People say Mal was not in the right headspace and blah, 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 blah. Let me be real with you guys. Those are excuses. He's a fighter. He's a professional fighter. And I think the same thing that's happening to Ryan Garcia, the same thing that's happening to Teofimo Lopez is when the opportunity presented itself for Mal broke. Mal had an opportunity back in 2019 to face Canelo, and he didn't want it. In 2023, which was last year, he had an opportunity to face Canelo again, and he choked. This year, he had the opportunity to face Canelo one more time, and again, he choked. What I'm trying to say to you guys is, Mal never wanted to face Canelo. He talked the talk, but he never wanted to face Canelo. And people are using mental illness to mask the fact that Mal didn't want that smoke, never wanted that smoke. All right? With respect to, and I'll show you the same sort of behavior. Look at Ryan Garcia. Ryan Garcia is behaving extremely weird. And it's because inside of Ryan Garcia's mind and heart, he knows he's not ready for Devin Haney. He knows he needs to go through a certain process before he can be ready for a fight like that. And so Ryan Garcia is counting on knocking out Devin Haney with some surprise shot, whether it's a lead right hand or a left hook. That's what he's looking to try and stop Devin Haney. It's not going to happen. It's very unlikely. So you see Ryan behaving and throwing these tantrums and behaving all these strange ways, even though he's training. But it's really because, yes, he's trolling, but also on top of that, he's never behaved like this before. And that's because he's facing Devin Haney, who he acknowledges is his toughest fight. Okay? He said that multiple times. Now let's go to, and he doesn't talk about Devin Haney's fighting. Right? He doesn't go into detail on that. All right, let's go to another one that, again, Tyson Fury versus Usyk. And I'm trying to show you guys there's a pattern to boxers. When they don't really want to fight, they're going to stall that fight as much as they can. Tyson Fury got injured, right? You remember that? He got injured. Now, somewhere, whether subconsciously or otherwise, Tyson Fury, he really don't want that smoke with Usyk. He really don't want to face Usyk. He's going down a path he really doesn't want to go down. Okay? You look at, I'll give you another one, Teofimo Lopez. Teofimo Lopez beat Josh Taylor. Great. He's okay with that. Mentally, he wanted to beat Josh Taylor. But he don't want nothing else to do with 140. He really doesn't. He's talking like he wants to. For the life of him, he doesn't want to face Devin Haney. And y'all see it. He's talking about 20 million. Anytime you see a fighter start to raise the price, you know, that they have a certain price for all the other fighters. But when it comes to this fighter, all of a sudden the price goes 5 times the value, 6 times the value. Teofimo Lopez never made more than $3 million, if he has ever made $3 million on a fight. He's talking about $10 million, $20 million to face Devin Haney. That should tell you everything you need to know. When the fighters start to behave outside of their normal character and behavior, it tells you almost instantaneously how they feel about another fighter. You know that Canelo Alvarez, he doesn't want to face David Benavidez. He's giving you all the signs. And it's not like it's not like he's ever trying to make the fight happen. You know, people talk about Mayweather didn't want to face Pacquiao, but he tried to make the fight happen. He really tried to make the fight happen. And the person who kept on pulling out of the fights was Pacquiao and his team. This is not the same. Keith Thurman versus Tim Tszyu. Sean Porter was the guy, the inquirer. He was the guy with Keith trying to test Tim Tszyu to see if he was for real. I will never forget the same day that interview came out where Sean Porter was seeing what Tim Tszyu's approach is to boxing and Keith Thurman and to, you know, cutting off the ring and his approach to nailing down Keith Thurman. After Sean Porter heard that and he was satisfied, Keith Thurman immediately, I'm talking about not even a decent couple of hours after, had an injury. Okay? So what I'm saying to you guys is that's not coincidental. That's Keith Thurman pulling out of the fight. And this happens a lot in boxing. A fighter, you know, is preparing for another fighter, their opponent, and at the last minute, the opponent will just pull out of a fight. Rich Banks in the building. If you want to, my friend, you can hop on here, show your face, and we can talk man to man. He says, Rich Banks says, Floyd made a million excuses not to face Prime Manny. I don't know about that. See, he faced Manny Pacquiao, first of all. Second of all, the first time there was any negotiations for a fight, it wasn't Floyd that pulled out of the fight. It was Pacquiao. And it was for random blood and urine testing. That was it. Which Manny Pacquiao 5 years later did. So there's no way when you start this whole argument, you know, Floyd had a million excuses for not facing Prime Manny. It falls apart right there because it wasn't Floyd that ended the negotiations the first time around. It was Pacquiao. Okay, that's that. That's not the case with Canelo. Canelo is running from David Benavidez. And Richard Banks says, and correctly so, David is ducking David. No, David's not ducking David. You mean Canelo's ducking David. That is true. And we know that for several reasons. Canelo asked for $150 to $200 million. Now, which fighter has Canelo ever asked that of? Which fighter? When has Floyd ever asked that of Pacquiao? No, Floyd did the offering. Floyd would say, I'll give you $40 million. I wire it now. I wired $20 million to you now. I wired $20 million to you when the fight's over. Right? Of course, there was no pay-per-view. Pacquiao was getting no pay-per-view. So that wasn't a good deal. But it was a way to begin negotiations. Right? Pacquiao responds 50-50 and gets off the phone. Okay? And for the record, because I hear all these different, I hear all of these. Again, pop on here, brother. I'm not going to treat you like I don't treat my guests like how other channels treat their guests. You can pop on here and you can chop it up with me. We're going to have a discussion. We're not going to have an argument. I'm not going to be me versus you. I'm not an ego-driven person like some of these channels on here. If you feel the need to pop on here, you don't want to show your face, you want to show your face, it's okay. It's just about having a discussion. The champ fights you whenever he wants, not when you want. That's not necessarily true. I'm gonna explain to you what I mean. When you look at guys like Devin Haney faces the best possible competition, or the guy that just answers the call. The guy says, I want to face you, right? Even when you look at Floyd Mayweather's career, not so much to the end, because Keith Thurman wanted to face him. I believe, who else wanted to face him? The Young Bucks, that is. Keith Thurman wanted to face Floyd, and Floyd ended up fighting Berto. He said, I'm done. This is my farewell fight. I'm going to fight Berto. I really wanted him to face Kell Brook, but he didn't, all right? He fought Berto, which was an anticlimax, in my opinion. But having said that, you look at it, Floyd always faced the very best. Think about what I'm saying. Don't just go there. He faced the best guys. I'll give you. I'll just run through a couple, and you see what I'm saying. Floyd versus Carlos Baldomir instead of Antonio Margarito. People said he's ducking Margarito, but he fought Carlos Baldomir. Who was Carlos Baldomir? Carlos Baldomir was the lineal champion who just beat Zab Judah, knocked out Arturo Gatti, was on a 22-fight winning streak. That's who Floyd fought. Antonio Margarito even said Carlos Baldomir is a full-fledged welterweight. I hope Baldomir beats his ass for him ducking me. That's what he said. Margarito. Okay? Bob Arum wanted Floyd to face Antonio Margarito, who was the WBO champion. At the time, the WBO wasn't seen as this prestigious title it is today, and it wasn't counted for undisputed. So the claim that Floyd ducked Margarito to face Carlos Baldomir is unfounded. Floyd never said raise more money for it and all that. He didn't say that. He was offered $8 million to face Antonio Margarito. He collected, I believe it is, I think it was $8 million to face Carlos Baldomir plus pay-per-view. He got back in on the Carlos Baldomir fight. Okay. He was his own boss. He decided, I'm going to do this. Now, Margarito wasn't a mandatory of Floyd Mayweather. Margarito, unlike David Benavidez and Canelo, well, David Benavidez is not a mandatory per se. He's the number one contender. He's been that for 3 years. The WBC was going to make him a mandatory, and then they were supposed to strip Canelo. They were supposed to strip Canelo this month. Okay? And by the way, just for the record, Floyd was stripped of the IBF title that he faced Zab Judah with because Floyd wasn't going to defend his title. He instead went on to face Carlos Baldomir at the same time when Antonio Margarito was talking about it. So he got stripped, just for the record. Okay? Now, who was he supposed to face? You can check it up in the IBF. You can go through their files. The number one contender who he was supposed to face, I'm not too sure who it was. Okay? But you can go ahead and check it out. And the point is not that Canelo, okay, and so, okay, we can go through this dialogue. I like this. I like this, Rich Banks. Canelo is his own boss. Yes, he is. He's managed by his trainer, Eddie Reynoso, but he is the boss of Canelo Promotions. That is correct. All right? He works along with other companies, but he is his own boss. That we're not disputing that. This is what we're disputing. He has a guy in the WBC who deserves a shot at his title, and he's undisputed. The guy who deserves the shot at his title has proven himself by being a two-time world champion and has recently faced a guy that Canelo has not fought. He was supposed to fight him, but he never fought him. Okay? I'm not going to even say he ducked him. He did, but I'm not going to say that. Okay? I'm just going to say Demetrius Andrade was a very difficult fighter Canelo never faced. He had opportunities to face him twice. Okay? So Canelo instead fought other people. The point is, and look at this the series of events I'm speaking about, and this is why Canelo's situation is completely different to Floyd's and the alleged allegation. Canelo goes to face Javier Mungia. How is Javier Mungia's resume better than David Benavidez? Go ahead. What did Javier Mungia do that makes him more qualified than David Benavidez? This is how you know ducking. Okay, this is how we ascertain ducking. Right? Canelo said he's not facing any Mexican. He's facing Javier Mungia. Canelo said David Benavidez is not qualified. He only had one champion on his resume. He's facing a guy with two champions on his resume. They both were at 154. That's Javier Mungia. Nobody else is a champion on his resume. Whereas David Benavidez, right at this point in time, has fought 4 world champions, of which the most recent guy he faced was a 2-time world champion. Ducked and avoided like the plague. He stopped him. Okay? So if you're in the Mayweather sweepstakes and Mayweather sees that happen, Mayweather's not going to pick Haymon Mungia. He's not going to pick Jamal Charlo, even though Jamal Charlo is the guy Canelo and people allege Canelo did not face when he was supposed to face him at 160. We now know the story behind it is that Golden Boy did offer Jamal Charlo's team to fight Canelo, the interim to the champion, and Jamal Charlo turned it down, his team. So Canelo did not duck Jamal Charlo, right? However, having said that, when it comes to Canelo versus David Benavidez is right now the number one contender. In fact, he's the interim champion. It's the identical situation to what happened with Jamal Charlo. He is the interim champion. He's not just the number one contender. He's the interim champion to Canelo's title. That means he's the mandatory to Canelo's title. I just remember that. He won it. I think he won the interim title against somebody. I can't remember who it was. Right? I think it was he won the interim title against David, what's his name? He was the IBF 160 champion around with Gennady Golovkin. He fought Gennady Golovkin and stuff. David, what is his name? David, help me out here. The Canadian guy. David, whatever his name is. Can't remember his name right now. But he's also a David. He came up to 168 to fight David Benavidez because, he couldn't get fights at 160. He'll come to me. But anyway, the point is, he was interim champion all that time. That means he's the mandatory. When you become the interim champion, you automatically become the mandatory to the champion. Now, the way how they got out of that was Canelo became franchise champion so he could jump up and face Sergey Kovalev. Right? But in the case of Canelo versus David Benavidez is literally his mandatory. Now, he fought Avni Yildirim, who was his mandatory, but he's not facing David Benavidez, who's his mandatory, and the WBC is not enforcing it. And Canelo has had 3 years to face David Benavidez. It's his mandatory. As an undisputed champion, you're supposed to face your mandatory. Further, Canelo now comes on record and says even the worst thing you can ever hear. He's asking for these exorbitant sums of money to face David. He does not want to face David Benavidez. He may end up facing him, but he doesn't want to face him. You can tell from the language he doesn't want it out. To your point, the champ fights whoever he wants. That's not true. A champion has to face his mandatory or he will be stripped. This happened to a number of people. Okay? Latest of them was Terrence Crawford, who was supposed to face his mandatory, even though he didn't have sufficient time to do that. He was caught up in a contractual bind with Errol Spence. He got stripped of his IBF title, and it was given to Jerome Ennis, who was the interim champion. So that's not true. Not in boxing. But sanctioning bodies pick and choose who they want to strip and who they don't want to strip. The WBO stripped Floyd Mayweather of the WBO title he beat Manny Pacquiao with, and then awarded the winner of Timothy Bradley versus Manny Pacquiao that title, alleging that Floyd didn't pay sanctioning fees. This is how they do whatever they want. But having said that, the difference here is that Floyd, when he fought Carlos Baldomir had a better resume than Antonio Margarito. Carlos Baldomir had recently beaten, just like David Benavidez, he had recently beaten Zab Judah. David Benavidez recently beat Demetrius Andrade. So in the sweepstakes, who's the best qualified? It's the guy that made the biggest splash recently, right? Boxing is, what have you done for me lately? Margarito hadn't done anything for anybody lately. He was in obscurity. And Bob Arum was trying to build Antonio Margarito because he'd been a long-reigning champion by attaching him to Floyd. But Floyd was no longer a part of Top Rank. So Bob Arum started the rumor that Floyd's afraid and scared to face Antonio Margarito. It's Bob Arum that started that. There's no basis in fact on that. Because he wanted Antonio Margarito to face Floyd so Antonio Margarito could build his name. Antonio built his name. Margarito started to really build his name when he beat Miguel Cotto. But his star quickly faded after Shane Mosley whooped his ass, had his ass handed to him after they found out he was cheating. Okay, the peak of Antonio Margarito's career was beating Miguel Cotto, which we learned he cheated. And so Miguel Cotto rematched him and whooped his ass. This is after Pacquiao whooped his ass. This is after Mosley whooped his ass. Cotto got a chance to whoop his ass too and get his revenge. And they all did. Okay? So I'm just saying, don't get me wrong. Antonio Margarito was like, he was like Subriel Mateus today. He was one of those guys who could take a lot of punishment and he could dish out a lot of punishment. That was the thing with Antonio Margarito. He seemed to be able to beat down everybody he faced. But who did he face? Who did he really face? When he actually faced the big guns, the only big gun he actually beat down was Cotto. And then we learned he cheated. He lost to Paul Williams. This is the guy calling out Floyd, right? He called out Floyd after the Carlos Baldomir thing. Floyd went up and fought Oscar De La Hoya, right? At 154. Beat Oscar De La Hoya. So here's Margarito. He's calling him out. Oh, you're ducking and dodging me. He's building up that match with Floyd. And then he goes and loses to Paul Williams. What are we supposed to do now? You're calling out the guy and then you lose. Now, why would he face you? That's what happened with Margarito. He still ended up, winning other titles against, lesser champions and getting himself in position. And he beat Miguel Cotto. And then Mosley came in and whooped his ass. So he had his little day in the sun. But he didn't get the Floyd fight. He didn't get the Mayweather sweepstakes because he wasn't consistent. He would win, lose fights, get stripped. These are the things that happened to Margarito. It's just what happened. It's what happened. And it's a good thing he didn't face Floyd because he was cheating. In my opinion, he didn't deserve it anyway. But that's the true story. So when somebody on the surface says, oh, no, Floyd faced the better opponent at the time, which was Carlos Baldomir. He was actually the better guy. He did more. It's just what it is. It's just what it is. Right? What did I have a problem with Canelo facing Canelo Charlo before David Benavidez? Absolutely not. Canelo was supposed to face Canelo way before David Benavidez. You stand in line, meritocracy. I ain't got a problem with that. My problem is, why is David Benavidez, who gave Javier Mungia the ability to skip the line, skip over David Benavidez, and get a shot at Canelo? That's not right. That's unjust. You get what I'm saying? If Canelo want to face whoever he wants to face, all you got to do, bro, is surrender the belts, vacate, leave. And then, like Paulie Malice, that's like myself, we ain't got nothing to say. Okay, so you're not a champion anymore. You're not undisputed. You were the last undisputed champion, but you vacated to give David Benavidez his shot at the title because David Benavidez deserves his shot at the title. That's all I'm saying. That's fair. Okay, if you don't want to face David Benavidez, you can't be hugging those belts and holding them ransom so nobody else can get the belt. That's selfish. Rich Bank says, Floyd Mayweather ducked Paul Williams and Amir Khan. Amir Khan? No, bro. Come on. Your guys just calling names, though, man, friend. You're calling names. Paul Williams called out Floyd Mayweather after he beat Antonio Margarito. No doubt about that. We're not disagreeing with that. Who did Floyd face after Paul Williams called him out? He faced Ricky Hatton. Now, you look at Ricky Hatton's resume when he faced Floyd, and you look at Paul Williams' resume when he faced Floyd, and you understand what I'm saying? They just don't match up. Paul Williams is a new champion. It's the first time he beat Margarito, right? The guy that people allege Floyd ducked. He beat Margarito, but what else did he do? Versus Hatton beat a legend in Costa Zoo. He beat 5 world champions, including Louis Collazo at welterweight. Now, how does that compare? How does that even stack up? Plus, Floyd has given history with Hatton, where Floyd was actually in the same division as Hatton and didn't face him. Hatton was alleging that Floyd was ducking him. Hatton has the fans. Hatton has everything. Why would Floyd face Paul Williams over Hatton? Because Paul Williams is calling him out. Help me understand. Why is Paul Williams a better fighter than Hatton? Because he's long, because he's tall, but he fights like a small man. He fights on the inside. So what good is that? How I'm just saying. You guys claim that Floyd ducked Paul Williams, but here's the funny thing. Paul Williams, after beating Antonio Margarito, lost his next fight. He lost his next fight. I believe it was to Carlos, whatever his name is. Some Puerto Rican guy who's a southpaw. He lost his next fight. So he calls out Floyd. He's dogging Floyd. He's calling him out. Okay, good. That's good. You're supposed to do that. But then you're supposed to win your next fight so we can have that fight. You're building the fight, but you got to focus on your fight. Didn't Pacquiao get knocked out because he was saying he want Floyd Mayweather, and then he forgot Marquez. Right? It's the same thing. David Benavidez doesn't want the belt. He wants a payday. Well, I mean, it is prize fighting. And if I'm not mistaken, Canelo's asking for $150 million to $200 million to face David. So he wants payday too. Right? I'm just saying. David has been at 168 his whole career. Now he wants to be undisputed. Yeah, but his career is not that long. It's crazy. You know how old David is? David's like, 24, 25 years old. He's, you know what I mean? I mean, if that's your nitpick, that's not much of a nitpick. What are you saying? So are you saying that Marvin Hagler shouldn't have stayed at middleweight his entire career? Triple G has stayed at middleweight his entire career. What are you really saying? I don't understand. Why doesn't he want to? Why wouldn't any fighter want to be undisputed? Why not? See, you're making excuses for Canelo ducking him, man. You know Canelo's ducking him. Everybody knows Canelo's ducking him. And the thing about it is, a lot of people want to quote Floyd and say Floyd was ducking. Floyd wasn't ducking anybody. And it wasn't about because he's the champion, he could pick whoever he wants. That's not how it worked. Floyd wanted to face Manny Pacquiao. Contrary to what CJ of Goodfellas Sports TV will try to miseducate you on, Floyd Mayweather's the guy that made that Pacquiao fight happen. He met with Pacquiao personally, just like how Terrence Crawford met with Errol Spence personally. And they had a discussion how they would make the fight happen. Okay? So there was no middleman. Floyd wanted to face Pacquiao. He always wanted to face Pacquiao. But David Benavidez wants to face Canelo. Canelo doesn't want to face David Benavidez. Canelo wants to face Jamal Charlo. Jamal Charlo don't want to face Canelo. Anytime you see a fight in happen, it's because one of the fighters don't want it to happen. People like to blame the team and the advisors and stuff. No, Errol Spence knocked that all down. Errol Spence said, I want Terrence Crawford, and he's going to be next. If a fighter really want a fight, they're going to get the fight that they want. They persist. Adrian Broner, he got Marcos Maidana. Yes, you can advise him and stuff, but that's all Al Haymon is. He's an advisor. All the promotional companies can do is when a fighter gets to a certain status, is do what the fighter tells him to do. That's why Ryan Garcia said make the fight with Devin Haney. and Golden Boy had to fall in line. They worked for the fighter, not the other way around. The slave contracts that Bob Arum and Top Rank used to give to fighters, fighters are seeing through that now. So there's no excuse for a fight not being made. We see Tyson Fury and Usyk happening. Paul Williams KO'd Sergio Martinez. That never happened. Oh, you mean Antonio Margarito KO'd Sergio Martinez? Yeah, when Sergio Martinez was his debut into the American arena. Yeah, sure, he did. When Sergio Martinez wasn't known as a name, sure, he did. When Sergio Martinez had less experience, sure, he did. What else did he do? Understand, Carlos Baldomir beat the undisputed welterweight champion of the world, Zab Judah. Show me Antonio Margarito doing something better at that point in time. In 2000, and I believe it was 2006 or 2005. I don't know. I can't remember. Show me Antonio Margarito doing something better. Sergio Martinez wasn't the star that he was afterwards. This was a young green Sergio Martinez he beat. That was cool. Nobody's saying no, but it's just, it don't compare, bro. It just don't compare. It just don't. That's why Antonio Margarito was in the darkness for a very long time. Because Bob Arum decided to say that Floyd was afraid of Antonio Margarito, it built some notoriety for him, and it built some recognition. In other words, Bob Arum built off of Floyd Mayweather's back Antonio Margarito. Okay? It's called clout chasing. But David Benavidez built a reputation for himself and has beaten fighters that Canelo Alvarez has ducked. And he's beaten the best 168-pounders. He beat Caleb Plant, who's one of the best 168-pounders. He beat Demetrius Andrade, who is a notorious boxer that everybody ducked. He beat also Anthony Durrell. He also beat whatever the guy's name is, David whatever. Begins with L. I can't remember his name. But he was a puncher, but he wasn't a 168-pounder, so we don't really count that. But I forgot what his name is. If I want to look it up, I could probably look it up and see. Okay, so there's just no comparison. There's no comparison. David has proven himself. David's popularity is not just because of Canelo. Even before Canelo came to the 168-pound division, David Benavidez was seen as one of the top 168-pounders. Period. He was well known. So this is not the same. And he actually held twice the prestigious WBC title. He wasn't a WBO titleist or some IBO titleist or some kind of thing like that. No, he wasn't in obscurity. Bob Arum wanted to make Antonio Margarito into a name. It's different. And Floyd fought the better fighter. The fighter who proved himself more. See, y'all don't know history, so you will say what you say. And hey, it is what it is. I'm not mad at you, but I'm just telling you. When has justice ever been a part of boxing? Justice? Bro, it's about truth. When we as fans, if we put up with any bit of shit, we must call a spade, but you got to know your facts. You got to know what it is you're talking about. A lot of fans just echo the sentiment of the media and people. They don't think for themselves. A lot of fans don't even know what's going on in the ring. You know what I'm saying? They just talk. But there's a lot of fans now that are educated. I see them. I look, online on the channels and everything, and I see educated fans out here. But some of them some fans just want to bash. I don't know. Their lives probably were not. They didn't accomplish anything in their lives, and they decided to lash out. And then you have other people who, you know what I'm saying. A duck is a duck. No context needed. Thing is, you need to know what a duck is. If you don't even know what a duck is, you can't talk about a duck. A duck is when you avoid a certain fighter and you face a lesser fighter. If you're fighting somebody on the level of that fighter that you're supposedly ducking, then you can't call it a duck. You can't. And it's easy to do that. It's easy. You look at the age of the fighter, if they're decaying, and you also look at their credentials, what they've accomplished. And you look at their latest fight. What did they do? If they made a big splash with their latest fight, and this is how it works. It's so simple. They made a big splash with their latest fight, right? And it was against a prestigious opponent. And you look at their resume, and their resumes are doing everybody else's resume in the division. And you're not facing them, but you're facing somebody of lesser stature and character. It may be a name, but they're lesser. But they're coming up in weight, whatever. Their accomplishment's not as good. Then that's a duck. Point blank, period. But you can't duck people who are not in your division. They can't say, oh, he's ducking this guy 2 divisions down, or he's ducking this guy 5 divisions up. You can't do that. No matter if you call them out or whatever. You can't really duck them. It's about people in your division you're supposed to face who are the best. Because boxing is about the best facing the best. That's how it works. Floyd gets context for his duck, but everyone else gets crucified. Okay, if that's how you feel about it. I just gave you facts, though. I gave you facts about what happened with Floyd and Margarito and why it is false that he ducked Margarito. I just gave you everything about it. All right? And I gave you facts of why Canelo is ducking David Benavidez. Floyd doesn't have any. Margarito wasn't Floyd's mandatory. Margarito wasn't a guy who was prominent in boxing like that. Bob Arum was trying to make him prominent. Margarito wasn't a guy who had better qualifications than Carlos Baldomir. He wasn't lineal champion. In fact, they were claiming that Floyd was ducking Carlos Baldomir after he faced Zab Judah. Said Zab Judah's not the real champion anymore. Baldomir spoiled the party. Why aren't you facing Baldomir? That's what they said. But see, you want to make it equivalent. You want to make it equivalent to Canelo versus Benavidez. It's not equivalent in any way, shape, or form. Floyd never outpriced himself. Right? He took another fight that was about the same amount as the Margarito fight. He just said, I ain't going back to Bob Arum. I'm not doing business with Bob Arum right now. I'm going to do business. And then, on top of that, just a better opponent. Floyd was going to face, at that time, he wanted to face, this is who Floyd wanted to face. He wanted to face Corey Spinks at 154 for the IBF title that Corey Spinks just recently won. In fact, they had a press conference for that fight. He wanted to win it because Oscar De La Hoya had won the WBC title. So he wanted to have a unification fight with Oscar De La Hoya. But you know why the fight didn't happen? Because the fans decried him and said he was ducking Carlos Baldomir. And he's not the best champion at welterweight. So he ended up, because the fans dogged him, he had to face Carlos Baldomir. Okay? But what some of you remember is Bob Arum going on HBO and saying Floyd's afraid of Antonio Margarito. That's what y'all remember. But y'all don't remember the incident properly. Floyd wanted to face Corey Spinks. That's who he wanted to face. Y'all don't know. Why? Zab Judah had beaten Corey Spinks. Floyd had beaten Zab Judah. And Floyd wanted to beat Corey Spinks. And Corey Spinks will tell you, he don't know why the fight was canceled, but he knows why the fight was canceled. People kept on saying, nobody wanted to see that. People want to see Carlos Baldomir face Floyd Mayweather because Carlos Baldomir was on a tear. A 22-fight tear. He was beating everybody. That was not Antonio Margarito. He had lost to Daniel Santos. He had lost to another person. He had 2 losses. See, y'all just talk. Y'all talk. Y'all need to know the history before you talk. Who beat Plant more impressively, David or Canelo? David. David beat Plant more impressively. Canelo was having problems with Plant. David dominated Plant. You are saying it's more impressively because Canelo ended up getting a stoppage. Plant learned from that stoppage. Plant was not prepared for if he got dropped. He popped up too soon. So his equilibrium was off. That's why Canelo stopped him. By the way, I had Plant winning that fight going into the 11th. Plant wasn't winning the fight against David. David came on late. I mean, David was beating him up from the beginning, but Plant was cutting some style and stuff. You know, it looked like he was going. And then down the stretch, David just, I mean, he put an ass whooping on him. But Plant's a tough guy. He showed it was tough. And he landed some good shots on David too. But David, you know, strong. So I thought David was more impressive against Plant than Canelo because he was more dominant. He didn't stop Plant. But the Plant that faced David was smarter than the Plant that faced Canelo. More better prepared. Okay? So, in my opinion, the more impressive win was David Benavidez against Caleb Plant. Also showed how impressive Caleb Plant is in the sense that Caleb Plant showed how tough he was against David Benavidez. Rich Bank says you lost your boxing license. Bruh, first of all, I didn't lose my boxing license because I've never acquired a boxing license to box. That's not true. And two, the other point is, because I'm saying something contrary to you, bring your points, bring your reasoning. I just explained to you why Caleb Plant versus David Benavidez. David Benavidez had a more impressive win than Canelo Alvarez. See, y'all like knockouts. But which fight did Caleb Plant take a worse beating in? Was it in the Canelo fight or was it in the David Benavidez fight? You have to know. Understand, son? You got to know. We're having a conversation. You want to make it confrontational. You want to make it, you want to attack me because I'm saying something that makes sense. All you got to do, my friend, is reason. I'm not here to bash you and say what you are and how competent you are. We are having a discussion. So to tell me I'm fired from what? Not fired from anything. I'm here. I'm a fan just like you. I don't have a boxing license. So what do you have? What are you worried about? Don't have to go there, bro. You don't have to go there. We're having a discussion. But because you can't argue your point, you have to rail on me. Like most of the other people out there. Or you have to censor me. Because when people make points that other people can't dispute or argue, they try to censor them. So, from what I see, apparently Jamal Charlo is not interested in facing Canelo. He's not interested. He's had 3 times where he could have had that fight. And 3 times, the fight didn't happen. Oh, so you don't know what respect is? Come on, man. Stop playing games. So anyway, as I was saying, You can disagree with somebody. You don't have to throw insults at them. You don't have to tell them, you lost your boxing license or you're fired. That's being disrespectful. You're trying to be disrespectful. And you know that. But it doesn't matter. Boxing's a thing where people are confrontational. So they'll say what they say. But what I'm saying to you is this. That when it comes to Jamal Charlo, sorry, not Mel wanted that smoke. But it's clear that Mal doesn't want that smoke. Okay, otherwise this fight would have happened already. He don't want that smoke. Okay? And you can tell when a fighter doesn't want to face another fighter. And you can tell when a fighter is being punked. Like they're saying that Devin Haney doesn't want to face Tank. But who's the guy that's keeping back the fight? Devin Haney offered Tank to face him. Devin Haney offered Shakur Stevenson to face him. He's the guy offering to fight them. Shakur turns down Devin Haney's offer. His counter offer is 50-50. Straight throughout. So you have to ask yourself, is Devin Haney the guy who's really turning it down? Objectively, forget if you're a Haney fan or not. Is he turning it down? Is this the guy turning down Shakur and Tank? Bill Haney brought up a very important point, and I want to bring it up. He said he didn't want that smoke. Please show us. Give your source. Bill Haney said something that's true. So if you guys watch the Rise podcast, which is a podcast in Baltimore, where Tank comes from, Kenny Ellis, who is one of the trainers of Gervonta Tank Davis, said that Jamal said he want no part of Canelo, and I am the athlete podcast. Oh, he actually said that? Did Jamal say that? You gotta give me sources though. You gotta show me sources because I never seen that. I'm just inferring from how Jamal is behaving that he don't want that fight. I've never heard Jamal say that. But going back to what I was saying, on Kenny Ellis, they flipped a coin. Calvin was there, Coach Calvin, Kenny Ellis was there, and another trainer coach. All right? Hold on one second. I'll be right back with you guys. Right back with you. Okay, sorry about the step away. I'm back. Rich Bank says, I'm athlete podcast, genius. Again, you don't have to insult me, bro. We're talking. Oh, your name is Athlete Podcast. All right. And you're saying that Jamal said he wanted no part of Canelo on I Am Athlete Podcast. So I'm assuming you interviewed him. Did you get to interview him or something? And he said that? Do you have the receipts for that? Do you have like a short clip of it? Anyways, I was saying. So Kenny Ellis had a coin in his hand. And Coach Calvin was in the background. They were outdoors. And Coach Kenny said, heads, Tank will, he said, we're going to find out who Tank will face next. That's what Coach Kenny said. As the publicity stunt they did. And he said, heads, It's Devin Haney. Tails is Shakur. And they flipped it. And when he flipped it, it landed, and they got tails. Shakur Stevenson was next. So they said, Shakur Stevenson is next. This is what they were saying, right? Now, we all know Tank recently faced Ryan Garcia. And they, the coaches were saying, Coach Calvin was like, this is the season. Tank coming for them all. He's coming for everybody, right? So they said Shakur Stevenson is next. Who is Tank facing? Facing Frank Martin, right? He's not facing Shakur Stevenson. But yet Shakur Stevenson is saying absolutely nothing about that. Shakur Stevenson wants to go on and on as Shakira Twitterson on Twitter, talking about Devin Haney, talking about how he's facing Ryan Garcia, even trying to get a fight with Ryan Garcia. But Shakira Twitterson ain't calling out Tank on that. Ain't that something? Rich Bank says, type I am athlete on YouTube. Okay, I'll try and type your channel when I have time, my friend. I will do that. Maybe. I'm not saying I will or won't, but I may. So, Shakira Twitterson is going after Devin Haney like a madman. But yet Shakira Twitterson isn't going after Tank. Ain't that something? So when Bill Haney brought that up, I was like, yeah, why isn't Shakira Twitterson trying to get that fight with Tank in the division Shakira Twitterson's in? As Devin Haney even said, Shakira Twitterson should be getting a rematch with Edwin De Los Santos. Edwin De Los Santos should not be facing Raul Valenzuela right now. He should be fighting Shakira Twitterson in a rematch, because Shakira Twitterson said he didn't like his performance, said he was injured. Well, okay, then rematch Edwin De Los Santos, and let's see you do better. That's according to Shakira Twitterson. He said he did. Shakira Twitterson keeps putting his foot in his mouth every single tweet. You understand what I'm saying? And you look at that and you get to see the fake from the real. Shakira Twitterson turns around and says he got no offer from the Devin Haney camp, even though he's the one that brought up that the Devin Haney camp offered 25% of the pay-per-view. Now, how can we listen to Shakira Twitterson? Like, seriously. Right? This is the thing that you can, if you got a critical thinking skills, if you even have any kind of thinking skills, you're able to weed through the nonsense and get to the facts. Who are the real deals out here? Who's posturing and posing? So, Rich Bank says, it's Brandon Marshall Channel, the ex-NFL football player. Okay. I'm not really into football, so I guess that's cool. So anyway, next time you can hop on here. Like, as you can realize from me, I'm not one of those guys who goes and tries to bash people and bash. I will say, for some fans of boxing don't know shit about boxing, I will definitely say that. I'll tell you the truth. But I'm not one of those guys, like I said before, who wants to bring people on to bash them. I'm here, bring people on to educate them on boxing. That's basically where I can as a fan. All right, that's it. So anyway, that was what this stream was about. It was about why, Haymon ended up getting this fight instead of the Charlo fight. And of course, the David Benavidez fight, we all know why that didn't even happen. So we're not even going to go there. Because we know Canelo don't want no smoke with David Benavidez. He doesn't. I still personally think he could beat David Benavidez, but I don't think he must know something I don't know, because he ain't trying to face David Benavidez. He's not trying to. If the media doesn't mention David Benavidez, he's not mentioning it. He called Demetrius Andrade a horrible fighter. The ducking, Canelo started ducking fighters after the Danny Jacobs fight. He was facing everybody straight up and down, except for Mel Charlo, who was asking Golden Boy for him. But I mean, it is what it is. But other than that, he faced everybody. He faced Erislandy Lara. He faced Triple G. He faced Floyd Mayweather. He faced Austin Trout. He faced Danny Jacobs. Right? Even when his company didn't want him facing, he was taking that smoke. But the smoke, all that smoke ended. The smoke ended after I would say after the Danny Jacobs Callum Smith fight. I think the Callum Smith fight. But I think it began with the Danny Jacobs, after the Danny Jacobs fight, where he was supposed to face Andrade, and he didn't. He was going to be undisputed. He went up and he faced Sergey Kovalev. And then after that, he fought Callum Smith. And then, he was ducking David Benavidez after that. He just kept on ducking David Benavidez. David Benavidez didn't do himself any service by not making weight, though, and losing the WBC title. But nonetheless, Canelo never tried to face the number one contender for the WBC. He never tried. He fought Yildirim. He wouldn't face David Benavidez. So it is what it is, It is what it is. But he's still ducking David Benavidez. And it's clearly his language, how much money he has to be offered to face David Benavidez. It pretty much, it's as clear as day. This is not rocket science, ladies and gentlemen. Because he's not asking for that kind of money to face Javier Mungia. And he's contradicting himself nonstop. You know what I mean? Richard Banks says, salute Canelo, pound for pound number one. Okay, that's your opinion. Bivol and Kovalev are ducks. I don't even know what you mean by that. That makes absolutely no sense. Why would they be ducks? Bivol is about to face Artur Beterbiev. How is Bivol a duck? Are you kidding me? You serious? Let me say this though. David Benavidez has gone up so that he could challenge the winner of Bivol and Kovalev eventually, right? Now, if Canelo was to go jump up to 175, let's say rematch Bivol, that would show something, because he lost to Bivol, right? I got Canelo beating Artur Beterbiev. But I don't know if he'll face Artur Beterbiev. That's the honest truth. I don't know if he would take that fight. I know David Benavidez would take that fight. I know David Benavidez would face everybody except for David Morrell right now. I don't think he'd face David Morrell, but he faced everybody else. You know what I'm saying? You said everybody after Danny Jacobs are ducks. I never said that. I said Canelo started ducking after Danny Jacobs. I never said, come on, bro. Don't you have a basic comprehension of the English language? I said that Canelo started ducking people after the Danny Jacobs fight. He ducked Demetrius Andrade. He fought Sergey Kovalev. He fought Callum Smith, which he was supposed to face. That was the lineal champion. He ducked David Benavidez. And he went on to face, I believe it was Caleb Plant and Billy Joe Saunders. I think he fought those two. And to this day, he hasn't faced David Benavidez. That's the guy in his division. He's a 168 pounder. He's the interim champion for his belt. It's been ducking. It's what it is. That's why the fans all around know this. You understand? He's been ducking. There's no other way to put it. And the way how he's speaking confirms he's ducking. He's been ducking Demetrius Andrade as well since then because of what he said. He said Demetrius Andrade is a horrible fighter. Who you face and all this bullshit when he's going on facing duds. He's facing guys like Gildrim and then what's the other guy's name? John Ryder. I'm not saying John Ryder is a poor fighter, but who did John Ryder beat? Who did John Ryder beat? Danny Jacobs? So you can't, he's not consistent. And that's what we know he's ducking. He ain't trying to face Demetrius Andrade. And he going to create this narration that he's a horrible fighter. When have you ever heard Floyd say a fighter is a horrible fighter? Floyd don't do that. Floyd would say, who's that guy? I don't know that guy. That's what he would say if he don't know the name of the fighter, right? But he never said a fighter's a horrible fighter. You say that, you acknowledge you're ducking them. And you're acknowledging you don't want to face them. That's what you're acknowledging. It's a straight up fucking duck. Daniel Jacobs was a great fight. Yeah, everybody thought he was going to duck Daniel Jacobs, and he fought him. He straight up fought him. He was like, bring me Daniel. Canelo was a cold dude. He was cold. You understand? Canelo was just, I mean, he was taking he was all about the smoke until the Demetrius Andrade story. And then the smoke disappeared. Now, mind you, he had a lot of options at 154. He fought the guys he was supposed to fight at 154. Mel wanted him, but he didn't get him. Golden Boy didn't want him facing him. And then Andre wanted him and called him out multiple times and didn't get it. Now, at the time, the real dude that was Canelo had to face to keep it moving was Erislandy Lara, to be fair. But when you repeatedly are avoiding these fighters, you know, they go up to a new weight class to get you, and you're repeatedly avoiding them. They go up to another new weight class to get you, and you repeatedly, we know you ducking them. It kind of goes without saying, because they climb in weight classes behind you, and you're still not fighting them. And they are achieving accolades, and you're still not fighting them. So it tells me you're ducking them. And that's the difference. Then I have that with Floyd Mayweather. You understand? I thought you knew boxing, bro. You don't know anything, he says, laughing. Okay. Again, when you can't respond to me, you start declaring statements. You make statements that are not based in any fact whatsoever. So that's why you have to laugh, because you know you're not making any sense to anybody right now, because you're not explaining yourself. You see what I'm saying? If you want to explain yourself, you want to bring some factors, you want to bring facts, that's cool. But if you're not bringing anything, you're just making statements and you can't back up your statements. You know what I mean? You should laugh at what you say. Christopher Smith says we want Benavidez. Oh, everybody wants Benavidez. That's the guy that's deserving of the fight with Canelo. It's just what it is. The man did all he needed to do to get his shot. All the man wanted is a shot. Whether Canelo whoops his ass or not, he just won a shot. That's all. I don't understand what the problem is here. That's a what we call Mini Mill X Saddlebutt says Canelo duck. Yeah, I mean, we see it from afar. Listen. The thing about it is, I'm a Canelo fan, for those of you who don't know, okay? But I can't defend that. I just can't. There's no way to defend him not facing David Benavidez at this time. I always thought at a certain point in time, David Benavidez was the weakest link in the division, but he's getting better and better, and he beat Demetrius Andrade. I know Demetrius Andrade wasn't a bona fide, full-fledged 168-pounder. We know that. David Lemieux, that's the guy that he beat up, who was a former world champion. David Lemieux. The name just popped in my head. Right? So even, you know, if Andre probably was fully acclimatized to 168, it would have been probably a slightly different fight. I don't think Benavidez would have knocked him out. Then again, maybe he would have. Who knows? But what I can tell you is that David Benavidez right now, he earned his shot. He earned it. You know? So Canelo is ducking him. And that's just what it is. And if Canelo, if you want to duck David Benavidez, why don't you just vacate your titles and move on? Can't have these greedy sanctioning bodies trying to get money off of your belts, and they're encouraging you to violate the rules of boxing. They're not going to force you to vacate or strip you, you know. So that's, you know, it's a kind of monkey show going on. And they try to use Floyd Mayweather, to ride Floyd Mayweather's coattails to say, well, Floyd Mayweather used to do this. No, some of the advice that Floyd Mayweather is giving fighters today is stupid advice. I'm not gonna lie to you, because the thing sometimes Floyd is advising fighters to do, he himself didn't do. Like Terrence Crawford need to go up and face David Benavidez at 168. Floyd, you know you wasn't doing that with Golovkin. So, like I said before, don't put Floyd's career in the same boat as what Floyd is saying. Okay, CJ of All right, I'm sorry about that, guys. AP the Great 28 says, salute to what you need. Salute to you, brother. Andre is saying Andre got ducked, but equally Andre's fault for not staying active. He's obviously more skilled than Benavidez. Yeah. That's some real talk right there. Sorry about that, guys. I guess my internet for some reason just stopped working for a minute, so I disappeared for a second there. Yeah. Hey, what I wanted to say to you guys is a lot of times you see fighters, sometimes you don't see fights get made, or you see a fight last minute get pulled, and they say a fighter's injured. Don't ever just take it at face value. Sometimes fights don't get made because one of the fighters really don't want the fight to happen. It's not the managers, it's not the promoters, as you would think. And another thing that's important is sometimes you see a fight stops because a fighter gets injured. Now, sometimes it's a genuine injury and they continue the fight. But if you see a fight get stalled because or canceled because a fighter gets injured and it never picked back up again, trust me on this. And I've seen it all the way back to Sugar Ray Leonard's days. That fighter wanted to get out of the fight. Right? The fighter wanted to get out of the fight. And what's the best excuse? They get injured. That's why a lot of fighters don't talk about their injuries when they're moving up to a fight, because if the fight get postponed, people feel the fight's in jeopardy, and all host of the money can be lost. And then if tickets have already been bought and all of that, the show has to go on one way or the other. And sometimes people act in bad faith. You know what I'm saying? Erislandy Lara and Danny Jacobs are close calls. Since then, Canelo has been on a ducking spree. Yeah, after Danny Jacobs, he's been ducking. No doubt about it. And Danny was coming back. Danny Jacobs was coming back hard in the second half of the fight. Canelo did pull out the last final round, but yeah, Danny Jacobs was coming back. And Erislandy Lara fight was a close fight. It was. And Canelo, I thought Canelo pulled it out by the skin of his teeth because of the body shot, but yeah, it was a close fight. It's a good fight though. AP the Great says, I got Canelo by KO versus David if it ever happens. You think Canelo knocks out David? David's a big dude, though. He big. David Benavidez or David Morrell? They both big guys. I don't know. I don't know if Canelo could stop them guys. He stopped Kovalev because Kovalev was old, and Kovalev was not overtrained, but he bounced back from a fight where he wasn't fully healed up and stuff. But Canelo ain't stopped no other 175-pounders, and basically Benavidez and Morrell, they're both 175-pounders, basically. Talking about that, Danny Garcia was supposed to face Erislandy Lara. Lara's facing that Australian kid. What's his name? What's the Australian kid's name? The Australian fighter? I would pick Canelo to beat Benavidez, but definitely not KO. Yeah, I don't see him KOing David Benavidez. And I'm just going to say, after David Benavidez, not Jeff Horn. I'm going to tell you, Erislandy Lara, Jeff Horn's retired, remember? Hold on. I'm going to tell you who it is. I can just go and look. Hold on. I'm going to look on my phone. Y'all, I'm not really feeling well today. That's why I haven't gone out. I'm just at the house. I was supposed to go all the way up to the countryside. I'm just not feeling good. So I decided to do this stream with you guys. Yeah, this is the guy. Just I'm telling you. Yeah, he faced Jeff Horn, though. The guy I'm talking about faced Jeff Horn. Michael Zarafa. He's facing Michael Zarafa. I think Erislandy Lara is going to be on the undercard of David Benavidez versus Alexander Gvozdyk and Tank versus Frank Martin. So instead of facing Danny Garcia, oh shit. No, actually, it's on the undercard of Tim Tszyu. Sorry, my bad. Tim Tszyu versus Fonfora. So Tszyu versus Fonfora, Romero versus Cruz. It's gonna be on that undercard. That's kind of dope. Zarafa's an okay fighter, but it is what it is. Hey, Rolly versus Cruz, Pitbull Cruz is gonna be a good fight. I hope Frank Martin beats his ass. Well, it's possible. I think Tank can box pretty well, though. So I don't know how likely that is. We'll see. I don't know. But I'm telling you, that's a much more competitive fight than Devin Haney versus Ryan Garcia. Ryan's fast. Don't get me wrong. He got a devastating left hook, and he got a good right hand, but Devin just way too skilled for him. Devin's on another level right now. So I don't really see that fight. And Ryan's doing a lot to keep the fight in the press. But to be honest with you, that's actually a closer fight. Tank versus Frank Martin. I know there's a lot about Frank Martin we don't know. But from what I've seen of him, Frank's really smart and he's strategic and everything. So that would be a good fight. But it really supposed to be, as I said before, Tank is supposed to be facing Shakur Stevenson. That's what Kenny Ellis and Coach Calvin and all these guys were saying, purporting. Now, some people will say, well, Tank's coming out of prison, so you gotta give him a break. Just desserts for ducking the best fighters at 135 and 140. Man, he been ducking everybody. Tank destroys Frank. I don't know about that, bro. I don't know about that. We'll see. Devin's trading like a man possessed. Devin's a gym rat. He's a gym rat. So I saw him training too. I think Coach Eric Bradley, the fight doctor from Master Boxing, was actually using some of Devin's training to show you guys how champions do it. Yeah. I'm hearing Terrence Crawford might face the winner of Tim Tszyu versus what's his name? Versus what's Funfora's first name? Everybody know what's Funfora's first name? I forget his first name just for some reason. I know it begins with S, but just can't remember what it is for some reason. It's like a Roman name or Italian name, but I just can't remember. Yeah. So that's the talk that Tim's. And I'm gonna say this though. I know Crawford's strong and everything. I see him bulking up and all of that, but Tim Tszyu is no joke, yet, ladies and gentlemen. Sebastian, that's the name. Sebastian Fonfora, right? John Sebastian Bach. Beat Johann Sebastian Bach. Yeah, Sebastian, that's his name. Fonfora is big and long, but again, I'm gonna show you guys why it is. Paul Williams would have got beat by Floyd. Antonio Margarito would have got beat by Floyd. It's the same kind of boxer. He's southpaw and he's long, but he fights on the inside. And Tim Tszyu is going to pick him apart and he's going to destroy him. I got Tim Tszyu knocking out Sebastian Fonfora again. Christopher Smith says Crawford beats everyone up to 160. You know what? Maybe. Because he's got so much skill and IQ and all of that, but I don't know, man. I'd love to see him against Tim Tszyu. I'd love to see that fight. I know Tim ain't got that kind of experience, but nonetheless, I think Tim knows what he's doing in the ring. And Tim's not a guy that would reach like how Errol. And Tim even thinks something was wrong with Errol because Errol was reaching and all that. Yes, Sebastian Fundora. Yeah. Sebastian Fundora. I got Tszyu beating Fundora. I beating the brakes off of Fundora. I got him beating him up. Fundora comes at a very high pace with high activity, throws a lot of punches and stuff. But you throw a lot of punches, it means you're not keeping the defense at home all the time. So you can get beat up. Hold on 1 second. I'll come right back. While I'm at it, this is my drink. These are the drinks I do. This is called Morbi. I don't know how many of you guys know what Morbi is, but it's a really nice, flavorful drink. And these are the drinks I make. So I make my own juices. And I'm just testing this sample here. It's slightly, I don't know if you guys can see that, but you can see the ice. Maybe you can see the ice up on top there. Can you see the ice there? So it's an icy-ish drink. So I make these drinks and I sell them. My brand, which will come out, is called, well, I won't tell you guys what my brand is, but I'll tell you some other time. So I make drinks, and I made some drinks, and I'm just tasting this sample here. Just pretty good. So there's Morby drinks. Morby is a Swedish drink that has it's made from a bark of a tree called a Morby tree. And you draw it, you boil it, and you add your all your flavoring ingredients. Taste is phenomenal. And also, I have something called sorrel drink. I don't know if you guys know what sorrel is. That's a nice drink as well. It's usually used around Christmas. I think Puerto Rico will know about this. Puerto Ricans would know about sorrel. I think it's also known as Jamaica. It's known as Jamaica in Mexico. Jamaica drink. It's a very nice drink. And then I also make another drink called soursop drink. It's very nice. The soursop's kind of milky-ish. All very nice drinks. So I also do the standard drinks like, grapefruit, orange, fruit punch, But those are the drinks I just told you about. They're like exotic drinks and drinks you find in my region of the world, in the Caribbean. Some people know them by different names, but they're really nice drinks. And so I'm putting out a brand of drinks, fresh drinks. So the drinks don't last very long. You have to consume them within a day or two. Yeah. So anyway, talking about boxing, that's basically it for me for now. You can talk about some other upcoming fights. Like I said, I did another stream where I talked about some of the more exciting fights out there. You have mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. You got a couple sleeper fights out there. I already did a stream on that, so I'll call it a day. If you guys want to pop into the studio, once again, the link is right up on top here. Show your face. Christopher Smith said he whooped a big welterweight in Spence. Yeah, but I mean, he did beat up Spence. Spence never made any excuses, but to me, Spence didn't look coordinated. He was reaching, and Spence doesn't usually reach like that, and he's usually in balance and stuff like that. So I found it a little bit suspect on Spence's sides of things. But it is what it is. I heard Spence is going to come back at 154, so looking forward to that. Yeah, so let me just hit you guys up with this. So this is for donations, if you want to donate to the channel. But if you want to come in as a guest, there's the link. So guys can just click the link and come in as a guest, man. There's nothing wrong. Again, I'm not one of those guys who will try to embarrass you or beat you down and stuff like that. I don't do that. All right, people, I am what you need. You've been watching my channel. I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. The stream lasted how many minutes? An hour and 34 minutes. Wow. Don't forget to share it, like it. And if you want to donate, you can donate via PayPal. I'm going to catch you guys later. I'm what you need. We're getting out of here. Peace.